You know that moment in Alice in Wonderland where Alice asks the Cheshire Cat for directions? Could you tell me, please, which way I ought to go from here? That depends a good deal on where you want to get to. I don't much care where. Then it doesn't matter which way you go. If you don't know where you're trying to go, if you haven't clarified the sound you're actually after, if you're just trying to sing correctly, then how will you know if your technique is the way you want to go? You'll wander from method to method, teacher to teacher, wondering why nothing sticks. I'm Greg, and this is VoiceCraft. After over a decade of teaching voice, working with hundreds of singers, preparing for leading roles in musicals, studio sessions, and live performances, I've noticed that singers get caught up in questions like, what's the right way to sing this? Or how do I make this sound best in my voice? That's actually not the biggest problem. The bigger issue is that even when you do know what you want, nobody tells you what it's going to cost. Every vocal choice you make is a trade-off. You're always gaining something and giving something else up. Once you understand this, everything changes. You stop feeling guilty about imperfect technique and start making deliberate choices instead. This is what I wish someone had told me years ago. There's no vocal adjustment that's all upside. Every technical choice shifts the balance of effort, vocal stamina, and sound. You gain something, you lose something. The singers who sound effortless haven't found some perfect bulletproof technique. They're the ones who understand the trade-offs well enough to stack the odds in their favor. If you want a more powerful sound on a high note, you might press the vocal folds together more firmly. That extra compression cuts out the breathiness and gives you a more focused, intense sound. But here's what a lot of singers miss. More compression means more collision force. Every time those folds snap back together, the impact increases. If you're doing one high-energy song in a set, no problem. Your voice recovers quickly. But if you're on tour doing 8 shows a week, that repeated impact accumulates. Now, I don't want to scare you. This doesn't mean compression is harmful or dangerous. The trade-off becomes a problem when the technique is unbalanced or unsupported. With proper breath management and efficient coordination, you can use firm compression without excessive wear. The cost isn't eliminated, but it's managed. The singers who have been doing this for decades aren't avoiding intensity. They've learned how to produce it sustainably. If you want to bring more chest voice higher in your range for a fuller, more powerful sound, you'll need to thicken your vocal folds to increase the surface area of contact. But thicker folds are heavier, and heavier folds need significantly more breath pressure to keep them vibrating at pitch without sagging flat. The cost is effort and air. Again, this is workable with proper support, but it's a cost you must be willing to pay. Same with larynx height.
Too low and you sound more hooty and operatic than intended.
Too high, you get squeezed or strained.
You could raise your larynx slightly, shortening the resonating tube for a brighter, more cutting quality. You could get presence and clarity, but you sacrifice the warmth and depth that come from a longer vocal tract. The cost is timbre. Which approach is correct? None of them. All of them.
Did I order the what for the what?
It depends entirely on context. What's the style? What else do you have to sing today? How's your voice feeling? What does the sound equipment at the venue sound like? The question isn't what's the right technique, it's which trade-off makes the most sense right now. This applies to almost every parameter in singing. They all exist on a spectrum where both extremes cause problems. Too much air and the sound is breathy and unfocused. Too little and the throat may narrow to compensate. Some happy medium is the goal, but that middle point can seem like a moving target sometimes. The sweet spot can shift depending on what genre or style you're singing. Adele, Benson Boone, and Billie Eilish, for example, require unique approaches that require trade-offs. It's worth looking at what those artists are actually doing because each of them has made particular choices that enable them to achieve their desired sound. Adele carries a chesty coordination high into her range for those signature ballad belts. The trade-off is increased breath pressure and collision force. It's a vocally expensive sound even under ideal conditions. Now layer on arena touring schedules, stage volume, and an audience expecting that same power every single night. The costs add up. Benson Boone leans into high-flying, chest-dominant mixed voice that can include cry, grit, and controlled distortion. To keep that sound sustainable, he needs precise vocal fold closure and breath management. It is a demanding setup that calls for real control, especially in a touring context. Billie Eilish does something completely different. An intimate, breathy quality created by intentional glottal leakage, letting air slip through the folds. The trade-off? It's acoustically inefficient and soft. Without professional microphones and studio compression, you'd barely hear her. That sound only exists because of the technology supporting it. None of these approaches is correct. They're deliberate choices with specific costs, made in service of a particular artistic result. The singer who understands multiple approaches and knows what each one costs can adapt to whatever the music requires. The singer who only does one thing is limited. As singers, we need to have a well-stocked toolbox and know what each tool is for. If you found this helpful so far, subscribing will help you find more videos like this one. I make these for working singers who want to understand their instrument, not just collect random tips. So, how do you actually apply this? Understanding trade-offs is one thing, using them is another. First, identify your destination. Before you start tweaking technique, get clear on where you're headed. What's the goal for this phrase, this song, this moment? When someone gives you a note like make it brighter or add more power, decode what they actually mean. Ask follow-up questions, listen to tracks, watch performances, and pinpoint the specific qualities you're chasing. The Cheshire Cat was right. If you don't know where you're going, any road will get you somewhere. Just probably not where you want to be. Nail down that destination first, or your experiments will spin in circles. Once you have clarity, try multiple approaches. Practice with intention. What happens if you open or close the vowel, or add or remove weight in the sound, or ease off the chord closure and let the air flow more freely? Record yourself trying these variations. Listen back and compare. This is where you start seeing patterns in what works for your voice and develop your preferences and signature style. As you experiment, pay attention to what works together and what fights. Some adjustments synergize, others conflict. Pulling chest voice up while trying to lighten your mix is like pressing the gas and the brake at the same time. Pick a direction, but a slightly raised larynx, a clearer vowel, and some twang might all push toward the same cutting quality. When your adjustments reinforce each other, you found an efficient path. Play to your strengths. You don't need to master every style or technique equally. What does your voice do easily? Maybe you've got natural warmth in your low register or an easy falsetto flip. Lean into that. Use those gifts as your foundation. For the hard things, don't ignore them or try to force them into submission. Strategize around them. If high notes feel strained, you could bring in more head voice earlier. Work with your voice, not against it. Now, I don't want you walking away with the wrong idea. Some singers hear trade-offs and worry it means sacrificing their unique sound, the thing that makes them recognizable. Your signature voice matters. It's what sets you apart. Protect it. Don't chase some cookie-cutter correct technique if it strips away your identity. But here's the distinction. When you understand how and why you're creating that signature sound, you don't lose flexibility, you gain it. Say your signature sound is a warm, husky quality that audiences love, your artistic identity. If you don't understand what's actually producing it, you're at its mercy. Something changes, you're tired, the venue's weird, and you can't hear yourself very well through the monitors. But if you know the ingredients and secure your sense of what it feels like to sing the way you prefer, then you can make adjustments on the fly without too much trouble. You can dial it up or tone it down as needed. You can experiment without fear because you know exactly how to get home. Knowing how you do what you do doesn't diminish your artistry. It gives you options. Understanding trade-offs makes you adaptable. It means you can adjust when circumstances demand it. The singers I admire aren't the ones with perfect technique. They're the ones with control and variety. The ability to sing the way each different song asks for, while still sounding unmistakably like themselves. They got there by learning many approaches, understanding what each offers and its costs, and developing the judgment to choose in the moment. You're not failing by making trade-offs. Making trade-offs is what singing is. Your job is to understand those trade-offs, choose them deliberately, and own them. When you know your instrument, you can troubleshoot your own problems. Check out more of my videos on building this kind of vocal autonomy. I'll see you in the next one.